Need a little wine? Craving some tea? Well, you've come to the right place. This is a little wine and a whole lot of tea with Chastity.
Hey guys, how's everyone doing? I hope everyone's doing well. I would have to say that life is lifing right now, and soon I'll be able to share a lot more with you guys, but I have a lot going on just literally in every single aspect. I get hit with stuff at work. I get hit with stuff in my personal life. I get hit with stuff as a mom, as a co-parent. It's just crazy. And I'm sure we all feel that way. And so I kind of wanted to take today and talk about just how do we all get through it, and how do you guys get through it, and how I get through it. And, it's funny because a lot of my friends, sometimes I like to use like dark humor, or if something really shitty is happening in my life, I think I'll send some stupid meme or say something that's really dark. And they're always like, stop, why do you do that? But I don't know. It just like gets me through things. And even today I was talking to a friend and they said, you just kind of put like the little Chastity personality on it. And I think sometimes people think like, oh, she's so positive, or she's so this, or she's so that. But I think sometimes too, I'm just very numb to the fact that I'm used to shit just going wrong. And I've tried to change my perspective on it and just think like, okay, quit thinking that way. Cause there's that whole like, do you guys remember back in the day that like huge, like not huge book, but the big thing about The Secret and just the universe, and what you put out there is what you get back. And so I feel like sometimes like they say like, don't put it out there because it's going to come back to you. And I agree to an extent, I guess. But you know what? The shit that I have going on, I didn't put it out there. And it still fucking found me. So that's kind of where I'm at today. As far as, my personal life, it's really, really messy right now. Like I said, I'll have an update for those of you that listened to 2 episodes ago of just an update with the ex-boyfriend. And for those of you that heard that, we're like, holy shit, it's wild. Well, I'm going to tell you, it gets even worse. And when you think it doesn't, it totally does. And I swear to God, I need somebody to send that part of my life to like a writer or something, like, let me make some money off of my like sadness. Okay. And, I'll share a lot of that, but it kind of messed me up for a little bit. I was like manic for a couple days, and I'm super self-aware, but I think like I don't fully have all the tools to, overcome certain things. And actually I was kind of proud of myself because I was only manic for probably about like 2 days. And what I mean by like me feeling like I'm manic is like, even like one of my clients who's like a good friend, like she can tell when I'm like going through stuff. She was like, okay, you kind of have crazy eyes right now. Like I feel like when I'm like explaining things or I'm going through certain stuff, like my mind is racing. I'm like all the things, my adrenaline's up, like everything. And so I just feel very like on edge and very like almost like Speedy Gonzalez, right? And just like like I just, and luckily it only lasted for 2 days. And sometimes it'll last a lot longer. And I think I was just like, okay, take a breath, calm down, because I was very aware of what was happening. And so I was able to like regulate. And I don't know what helps you guys, but I will like go down the rabbit hole of like TikTok scrolling or even Instagram scrolling. And I love when I see like memes or reels or things that you're going through and it just like hits you. And it's funny because I used to think like, oh my God, you're seeing this at the perfect time. Well, let's all be real. Our shit is all microphoned. And so the things that you talk about, that's why it freaking pops up on your algorithm and everything, which is fine because I need the uplifting things and I need all of that stuff. And it's crazy because even when I was in the last relationship, I was like genuinely happy. I loved this person so much, or who I thought they were. So, what I was being given is who I loved. And I just remember I used to like get all of these things and like all the feels and all the things that like I was feeling at the time. And it used to make me so happy. You know that I don't see a goddamn thing of that. There's nothing like about love. It's like all about breakups and sadness and but then also like uplifting and things like that. And so it's just kind of funny how we think like you see certain things at a certain time, but I truly believe it's also like our phones listening to us and it's the whole algorithm. And whatever, it works. It's fine. But I think like right now I'm like back in the gym. I missed a couple weeks. I really enjoy going to the gym. And even though I feel like I don't have like, I guess the body results that I would like to, um, or I guess like as fast as I would like to, I feel strong, like I feel good. And so I do that. I try to go. This week I only went 4 days. I was feeling a little under the weather a couple of days. And so, um, but I do try to go. I go in the morning before I go to work. And so that's been super helpful. I don't know if any of you like are like super early morning. Like we always joke because one of the earliest and busiest classes that she has is 4:45 in the morning. I'm like, that's a different breed. Like I think I'm in my REM sleep at that time. Actually, I think my REM sleep is like 6 a.m., which people are getting up at that time. And I just am not a huge morning person. When I'm up, I'm up. And it's so funny because I remember my ex-husband used to say, you're like uppity, like you're so uppity. I'm like, what? Like I've never even heard anybody tell me I'm uppity before. But I think because like when I'm up, I'm up. And then I'm like, good morning, how are you? And blah, blah, blah. And like, even though it was really hard for me to get up. So it's like once I'm up, I'm up. And like I'm happy. Like I pretty much wake up in like a decent mood. Unless I'm going through some shit. So it's been a hot minute for me to like wake up that way. But like I think when I'm like around people that I love and like my family and things like that, like I'm always the one that's like up and ready to talk and ready to go, like, which I'm sure for most of you who know me, it's not surprising that that's how I am. But yeah, 6 a.m. morning workouts, like I can't do it. I think the earliest I can do is like 8 a.m. But I've also tried, my mom's bought me a couple books and I really want to be a reader, you guys. Like I just can't do it. And I don't know if it's because my mind won't allow me to like shut down. I'm much more of a movie person. I love movies. I love shows, series. But the reading, I just like the last book that I legit read, I had ankle surgery and my mom gave me Hunger Games. So I read the first Hunger Games and I really enjoyed it. And then the other one that she gave me was 50 Shades of Grey. And it was just so funny because I got through that one pretty quickly. But then I legitimately have not read a book, like an actual book since. And this was, I think I was like 24 and I'm 38 now. And I'll have friends who are like, oh my God, I read this series and this and that. And like, maybe I should really try. But I think like it makes me either I can't focus or it makes me really sleepy. And then I have to reread. And I'm like stuck on literally the same 3 pages for like a week. And so it just becomes annoying. And I'm like, whatever, I'm over it. So I haven't really got into that. I was trying to journal. I also tried to do those like coloring books. And it's funny, I got one that was like one of those anxiety coloring books. And me and my daughter, I got her a kid one and then I got me one. But it was like all these quotes, but they were like where it was cuss words and it was like, you're fucking awesome. you're a badass bitch, like that kind of thing. And it's funny, I was actually cleaning today and I found it in my daughter's toy chest. And she's been playing with like one of the neighbors, and they'll like pretend like they're going to school or they're going somewhere or whatever. And she'll like pack a bag. And so she took my thing, but like the first grader, like the neighbor that she plays with is in first grade and knows how to read. And I was like, let me take that because I don't really know if your parents would approve, which it's funny because they're Hispanic. My child thinks that she can do whatever the hell she wants when she's here, and it is frustrating. And so they were like jumping around on something, and I'm like, what are you doing? And so I tell the neighbor, I was like, does your mom allow you to do that at home? And she's like, no. And I was like, what does she do? She was like, oh, she'll throw the chocolate at me. And I just started laughing because I was like, so like typical stereotype, which is just funny. And I love her family and they're really nice, and she comes over quite often. But yeah, so like I've tried, the coloring books. What else have I done? I've also done um like devotionals, and I would read them at night versus in the morning because like I said, I'm not a morning person. So I like can appreciate when people are like, I get up an hour early every day and I like read the Bible, and I'll read my passage, or I'll journal or meditate or whatever, and I'm struggling from the moment I get up. And I'm really, really, really going to try like next week, like, okay, get up at least an hour earlier than what you've been doing, because I feel like I'm teaching my child very bad habits and I don't want to do that. Um so like this weekend she's with her dad, and so I'm like, okay, I'm going to clean. I picked up her room, I did our laundry, I did all of this, and I really feel like because she's in kindergarten, she's at that age, like I need to teach things now. I mean, I should have been doing that the whole time really, but I just feel like I told my mom this the other day, like my house, because I've just been struggling in my personal life and it's taking everything I can just to survive, and just like being a single mom, and it's really hard. Like everything's on you. I don't get a break, and then I don't get to do what I want to do because when she's home, she wants my attention. So even if I'm like, it's nice because the neighbor will come over and then it'll give me an hour to do something, but really and truly, it's not really that long. So I feel like my house inside, like it looks like how my fucking brain is, just chaotic as all hell. And so I'm like, I need to start teaching her to like organize, and I don't want her to live in clutter. Like my house isn't dirty, it's just very lived in. Like laundry's done, everything's clean, but it's like all separated on the couch. And so like there's just things like that. And I think too, because like I don't have anybody come over, I don't really have a lot of friends, and I feel like everyone's kind of on their own little thing. Like even on the weekends that I don't have her, I really only have like one of my good friends who like will invite me to hang out and things like that, but it's like I don't want to go out all the time because it costs money and everything's expensive. And so like today I pretty much literally blasted my music and focused on cleaning and just did what I needed to do. But it does get a little lonely sometimes because I am such a people person. I think that's been the hardest like adjustment, is getting used to like being by myself when I don't have her. And other people are like, oh my God, you should appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. But as hard as it is of being a single mom, and I still enjoy being around her, and like I'm okay with like, I don't know, I just feel like it does give me like some sort of purpose. Like I'm not gonna lie, you guys, I get bored as shit when she's not here. Like I'm like, it's me in my home. I have a dog, sometimes I wish she could talk. And I have a cat, and but other than that, it's like not being able to like talk to somebody, it is weird, and it's like hard to get used to. And I remember like at first when we first like separated and got divorced, when I didn't have her, I'm not even kidding you, I would stay up till 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. Like I could not sleep the 2 days that she was not here. I've gotten a little bit better. I still go to bed kind of late, but I think because I'm just like a night owl in general. But it's been an adjustment for sure. And so I think it's even harder now that like I'm not in that relationship anymore and we were together every other weekend. And so now it's like, oh, okay, I'm back to like square one and by myself. And I'm really trying to like enjoy that, but it's not that I can't be alone. It's just the fact that I just enjoy people. Like I enjoy having friends. I enjoy having conversation. I enjoy the presence of somebody. Um, so I'm trying to figure out how to, be okay with my life currently. Um, I do go to church from time to time, and I don't know how some of you feel about that. Like I do feel good when I go. And actually right now, like the series that they're talking about is like teaching you how to pray. Basically, it's like, people assume like if you pray, then it should happen. But that what they were discussing was, have you ever thought about why, the Lord doesn't answer your prayers and how you can adjust to that? Just because you pray for it doesn't mean that that's his will or his journey. And the pastor was basically saying, like, I really wish when I was going through college and like, I wish somebody would have explained all of that to him. And so he was talking about that. And, there's been so many times, like, even in just the last like 5 years where I'm like, I need an answer. I need this. Like, and I would pray and I would pray and I would pray. And I'd be like, please, like, just show me, like, tell me anything in my dream, show me a sign. And I would get no answer. And like, I think that makes it hard and like the hardest decisions in that. And I try to be very aware. And so I think sometimes too, like you might not get those answers. But for me, like I really enjoy whenever I go to church. I feel like as part of my healing journey and how I've kind of dealt with life, like I don't get if I miss a Sunday or whatever. I mean, there's been times where I haven't gone in like 3 weeks. I don't beat myself up about it. I don't say like, oh, okay, like you're not a Christian or you're not a believer or whatever. But I like have now made it a point like, okay, you need to go. Because it does make you feel good. And I do learn like a lot of different things. And I really like my church. Everything is always goes back to like real life, right? Like you read the passage, bases off you, and like, you could be going with somebody and they take it like the message very differently. It's all up to like, your perception of things, or not everyone's going to receive the same thing, and also not everybody's going through the same thing. And so I really enjoy where I go. So I do plan on hopefully like keeping it up and going on Sundays. Um and so that has helped definitely. But it is funny because like I'm not that type of person. Like people have told me like, well, have you thought about getting into the groups and doing this and that? And like I'm that person that like I want to go to church. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to sit there. And I hate when they like do like, even if it's like greetings, I'm like, "Oh, I don't even want to talk to anybody. Like I just want like I'm just here for myself. Like I don't want to engage," which is so funny because that's not me in real life. But I don't know. I just feel like it's just I don't necessarily want to. And when I took that parenting class also, it was funny, like the lady who runs it, she had asked like, so what's your guys' next steps like after the class? It was like the last week. And so I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, are you going to continue to go to church? Are you going to do this? I'm like, oh yeah, 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 like I'll go on Sundays or whatever. She's like, well, what about small groups? And I was like, not gonna lie, it's not my thing. And she was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, like doing a Bible study and things like that, like goes back to I don't like to necessarily read books. Like I love to read passages and I love to do things like that. But like to sit there and read a whole lesson and then let's discuss it. And then everybody I feel like talks very like biblically and just like in my mind, it's like cryptid and it's not like how we all normally talk. And so I just feel like I don't talk like that. That's not how I perceive things. So I almost feel like I don't belong. And I know it's because like, oh, well, maybe you haven't found your people, but it was funny. She was very like, oh, okay. And I was like, but don't worry. She's like, well, as long as you like stay in the Lord and you pray. And I was like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Like I just I just don't want to participate. And she's like, okay, fine. So that's been, kind of a work. And I think it's hard, sometimes even just like finding your space. But You know, also like huge component, like I'm a huge advocate for therapy. Therapy. I love my therapist. I actually told him that if there is ever a day that he like completely leaves or tells me like, okay, you've like graduated, which I've heard a lot of people say, like that their therapist will be like, okay, you're good. We no longer need to see each other, which I think is very odd because I'm like, shouldn't I be the one who decides whether or not I want to come to you or not? Like, I don't know. I just think it's interesting when I hear that. But I told him, I was like, okay, well, the minute that you like kick me out of your chair, like you disappear, then we're doing coffee dates. Like we're friends. Like we're gonna be friends. And he's like, okay. But I feel like I've learned a lot in therapy, and I've really enjoyed going. And even in the last year, I've always been like a really good communicator and like said how I feel. But I think now I've like learned to process things differently, and I've become very like less reactive and less impulsive, and I've really tried to like absorb how I'm feeling in a way to where like I'm able to then articulate it out of how I want it to come off. And I actually just had this conversation, we all have like a little bit of like family drama or things like that, and um we have a little bit, and not in like my immediate family in Tennessee, but I had this conversation today and I said, I'm to a point in my life where if you want to be in my bubble, or if you are in my like immediate surroundings or anything like that, or immediate family or whatever, I feel like nobody's untouched when it comes to me. I'm over people mistreating people, and everyone just saying like, well, in order to protect my peace, I'm just going to let you do you and you can figure it out. And I feel like we don't know what we don't know. And I think that sometimes people will do things, but like I just fully think that people should get called out sometimes. And it doesn't have to be in an aggressive way, and it doesn't have to be necessarily in a confrontational way. And I know there will be people who are like, well, when you call somebody out, that is confrontational. And I'm like, yes and no. Like I think that we all have the opportunity to like teach people, or just like try to give that other perspective. And so I think that I've really just like learned through therapy, and I think like just being self-aware of myself, that I can articulate myself differently and get across what I need to get across without calling names or cussing or just being angry about it. And so this particular situation, like I truly like sat on it for like months, really. And then I even wrote down the message that I wanted to send in my notes, and I wrote it there, and then I sat on it. I didn't send it yet, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to it. And if I wanted to add anything or take anything out. And so I really was very conscious of how I wanted it to come off and what I really wanted to say. And it's funny because I do feel like the minute that you call people out per se, or give them the self-awareness that they should already really have, to be honest with you, but not everybody does, and that's fine, then it's like all of a sudden like you're mean or you're nasty or you're this or you're that. And I just don't agree. Like I think that, even for me, if I do something wrong or I do something that like hurts your feelings and I'm not aware of it, I want you to tell me. I want you like, and it doesn't have to be in an aggressive way. And so for me, like I just feel like if you can't handle it, then maybe you shouldn't act that way. And so that's just kind of like my take on that. And I just feel like, today, like people just want to move. Like they just want to like move in the way that they move, and whether it's like gross or not, they don't care. And so I'm like, you know what? It's 2025. And you know what, you guys, I have to tell you, like every single year, I'm like, 2023, it's going to be a good year. And, well, that was shit. And then I'm like, 2024, that's my year. And 2024, I have to say, was the fucking worst year and experiences that I've ever had. But I do have to say that even though like there was so much shit that went on, the positives is that like I've grown so much in just like the way that I think. Um, I've healed a lot from a lot of things, even things from my past. So what's crazy is this actually really helped me. And I don't necessarily like say that everybody should do this, but I had a relationship in my early 20s. And for those of you that do know me, know that relationship. And it went from 19 to 27, which was a really long time. It was a very young first love. Thought I was going to spend my life with this person. There was a lot of things that happened in that relationship. There was cheating, and when that stuff starts to happen, I feel like you kind of gain like a lack of respect for each other in a lot of ways. So there was just a lot of things. There was a lot of drama. And I carried that on for so long, that I even up until I want to say last year, I still, well, no. I would say maybe a couple years ago, but I really needed to fully like heal from it because I held a lot of anger in my heart. I held a lot of resentment. I held a lot of things. I definitely changed a lot in that relationship, and not for the good. And so when I started doing therapy and really like breaking down and going through everything and trying to figure out like at what point did you like were things bad, and then like how do we get back to the space of like where you were a confident person. And I always say like when I was 16, like when I was in high school, I feel like other than like we have our own body images and things like that, that's normal, but I was like my most confident. I didn't put up with anybody's shit. And as the years went on, I it started to chip away at me, different things that were happening. And so it's kind of crazy that then here I was like a year ago, and I just felt like I wanted to release myself from these feelings. And so I reached out via Instagram, and I wrote a message and just letting this person know that I no longer have like hatred in my heart for you. I no longer have resentment. I have really worked through those feelings and like things that happened in that relationship. And because there's a lot of things that I still remember, there's a lot of things that still sat with me. It was very like traumatizing things that just like created core memories, right? And so I sent this message and I was expecting nothing. Like I didn't care whether I got a response or not. Obviously, it would be nice if you did, but I fully was like, when I do this, I cannot expect anything back. And I sent it, and I immediately just felt this like release of like, oh my God, like that felt so good. And 24 hours later, I got a response, and I got an apology, and I didn't even get an apology 10 years ago. And whether he meant it or not, for me, it didn't matter because, like I said, like I wasn't expecting. I genuinely think that he did because I think he's grown a lot. He had to remove himself from all of like the ugly and the people. And I get that because in order sometimes for you to grow, you have to start removing people from your life. And I think that's really hard for people. I think I have like also started to do that. One of my good friends back home, we have talked about that, where they have like just started to remove because just because you've known somebody for a long time or you've been friends for a long time or whatever, even if it's family, that does not mean that they have to be in your life or they have to have access to you. And I think that's the biggest thing is it doesn't really matter. Like if that person no longer feeds like a positive in your life or, it just creates negativity, then why? Why do we have to continue this generational thing of like, we have to be nice to everybody. We have to like everybody, because I do not agree with that in any way, shape, or form. And so I am just like, no. And I actually teach my daughter the same thing. And I actually had to tell my ex-husband this because I have to meet his girlfriend in the next month or so. And I'm not like looking forward to it. Honestly, I don't know who would be looking forward to it. And my daughter has expressed that like she doesn't know who this person is. She didn't even know that there was like a girlfriend, but she has made it very apparent that if there is a girlfriend, it doesn't matter. She's not going to like them. And I said, okay, and that's fine. Because you know what? We don't have to. We don't have to like them. But what we are going to do is we're going to respect them. And I think that that's where people misunderstand a lot of things is you don't have to like everybody, but you do have to treat them like a human being, and you do have to be respectful. And, you know, I could sit in the room with my freaking enemy and you would never even know, because I don't have to fuck with you outside of like life and in my personal life or anything. But if we have to be in the same room together, you better believe that people are going to think that we don't even have an issue. And I've become really good about that. And I don't think that makes you fake. I don't think it does any of that. I think it means you're an adult and you know how to handle your emotions and your feelings. And I think it makes you emotionally mature, to be honest. And so when I did that message and I got that response, it was so nice to, and we kind of like laughed at a few things and like memories, because we were also friends in high school. And so that breakup was really, really hard, because at the end of the day, I lost a friend. And that was the hardest part, because we were friends and then we dated and then we were together for a long time. And so that's one thing that like I encourage you guys, like if you need things to release, and it doesn't mean that you have to like send a letter to that person or a text or an email or whatever. Maybe just write it in your notes, write it down on a piece of paper, like do whatever you need to do to release yourself from those feelings, because it's not about everybody else. It's about you and how to make yourself healthy and how to release just like trauma. And it's funny because one of my good friends, she sent me this thing on TikTok, and I'm going to read it to you guys because I was like, oh my God, that is me. And it was, so it says 6 ways your body is begging you to release trauma. 1, you struggle to watch TV without scrolling on your phone or constantly scrolling in your downtime. I'm like, guilty, 100% guilty. 2, you have difficulty falling asleep or you always wake up between 2 and 3. I have issues falling asleep, and 9 times out of 10, I will wake up 2 a.m., 2:30, which they always say is like the witching hour. And so I'm like, oh my God. 3, you have physical pain like sciatica, back pain, or other aches that have lasted longer than a few months. 4, you have knots in your shoulders that won't go away. You have digestive issues like stomach aches, constipation, or diarrhea. And then you suffer from anxiety, depression, or low mood. Then it says, often we think because something doesn't bother us in the mind that we are fine, but the body always remembers what you went through and how it made you feel. Sometimes we don't mean to suppress our emotions or ignore how we're feeling. We just don't feel safe enough to feel the emotions. When we ignore them for long enough, they show up in the body as symptoms. And I have to tell you guys, this has happened to me twice, and it's been the craziest feeling because it's never happened to me before, where I'll be working out and all of a sudden I'll get this rush of like emotions and I'm going to freaking bawl my eyes out. So the first time it happened to me was when I first was dealing with the breakup last year. And we were doing hip thrusters. And, you know, I had all this weight on my hips, which they say, like, specifically women, like we carry all of our emotions in our hips. And I'm thrusting, and I can't remember how much was on there. I don't know. My trainer makes me do like a shit ton of weight. And I thrust up, like, I think it's like the third time. And all of a sudden I just like feel it like from my hips all the way up. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna like cry right now. So I put it down. I go to the bathroom. I'm like, what the hell was that? So that was the first time. And I was like, oh my God, I had all this like built up emotion, right? And then it happened to me again. It might have been on like Monday because I haven't been back in the gym. And we were doing cardio and I'm on this like assault bike, which like is one of the worst things I think I've ever done. Um, and I'm like, same thing. Like, I just get this rush of emotions and I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I go outside and I could not catch my breath. And the trainer comes out and she was like, are you okay? And I'm like, I just started crying. And she knows, like, she's a friend, and several of my friends at the gym, like, they know what's going on with all my stuff right now. And so they knew. They were just like, you know what, get mad, use it in your workout. But I have a really hard time doing that. Maybe if I was boxing or something, but even then, like, I don't know, I just feel like I just have a hard time putting it into my workout. I don't know why. I didn't really used to be like that before. I mean, I'm trying to work on like not being in my head so much, and that's been like a challenge for sure. And so, I don't know. I just encourage all of you to do whatever makes you feel good. I read another thing the other day and it said, you know, yes, the past is the past, but you also have to deal with the past in order to move forward in the present. And so nobody gets to tell you how to heal. Nobody gets to tell you what you're doing is right or what you're doing is wrong because nobody lives in your shoes. And so I say all the time, like, when I share with you guys the update of everything that I have going on, and even in, 2 episodes ago when I explained, like, one of the petty things that I did was sending his ex-wife, a baby onesie with her mugshot on it. Like, honestly, I think that I've handled all of this deceit pretty fucking good compared to what you hear about other people. I didn't cause actual harm to somebody. I didn't go and terrorize them. I didn't go and like ruin objects, cars, things like that. Like, and I know there's like crazy, but I think sometimes when people go through very dramatic or traumatic things, like, you just never know what level they're going to go to. And so for me, I feel like I've handled things pretty good, considering all things and considering how I've been treated and considering just how shitty this human being has been. And so, and even too, like with my ex husband, and he'd probably disagree, but I think I've handled a lot of things in a good way. And I remember my mom had told me one time, she goes, I can tell that you have grown and that you have taken like your healing serious and your therapy serious, because I don't react how I used to react. I don't handle things how I handle things. I'm very much used to be a very reactive, very impulsive. And so even friends that I've been friends with for a long time, or that have known me since I was like 12, 13, 14, it's like I always tell them, like, Chastity from back in the day. And even Chastity at 25 was different. Chastity at 30 was different. Chastity now at 38 is a much calmer person than anybody could have ever anticipated. And I think even to some of the friends that I have that I met in my most chaotic state, which was 27 to 30, you guys, I was a fucking mess. I drank a lot. I was going out all the time. I I lacked a lot of sleep. I was a mess. Like, I was a mess. And I even have friends who knew me then and who see me now, and they're just like, oh my God, like, but they didn't know me before that either. And that was a really hard time in my life from 27 to 30. And so I do have to say, like, I'm just so proud of myself, but also it's been such a journey to get to where I am. And I even say all the time, like, I'm so glad that I became a mom later on versus like I thought I was going to be 25, married, had babies, because I don't think I would have had the patience. I also don't think that I would have had the knowledge that I do now. And I think I'm a much, I think my child is better off of getting the chastity today than she would have even 5 years ago. Well, she's 6. So I guess like 7 years ago, where I was starting to try and build and heal and do all that. And so it's just been a very, very interesting journey. And so, you know, just because we don't have it all together and we're not perfect, um, that's okay. Like, continue to grow, continue to heal. Like I said, the biggest thing that I say is like, you have to do what makes you feel good. And you have to surround yourself by things that are good. I think the hardest thing is creating boundaries. And my good friend Nadia and I talk about this all the time, and we're both Capricorns. And we just say like it's hard. Like when you first start creating boundaries, it is so hard. But then once you start to get the hang of it and you start to gain the confidence in yourself, it's like no problem. Like, oh, nope, you're not working. Fuck you, you're out. Okay, nope, fuck you, you're out. Like, you have to get to a point where your mental health is way more important. Your happiness is way more important. And like I said, it's a journey. It's a journey. Like, you're not going to get there immediately. You need to take the time. And if you don't take care of yourself, you can't be good for anybody. And that's what I learned. Like I said, I was a mess 27 to 30. Like, I was not necessarily good for people because of the state that I was in. And I think now I'm in a much better space. And I do think like I am a good person and I'm a likable person. And I think I'm a very knowledgeable person. I think I'm very self aware. I think that I have good morals and values, and I can thank my mom and my family, um, anybody who has helped raise me and just like help support me in all the things, because I do think that a lot of people lack morals and values. And that's the problem with a lot of our even society today is it's like anything fucking goes. And it's like, no, like you got to have some type of moral compass. Um, and so I think it's super important for you to figure that out, establish it, and then just keep growing from there. Like I said, if church works for you, great. The gym, shopping, if that's your thing. I actually even did, I have a friend who does massage and Reiki and like crystals. And some people are like, oh, it's contradicting to like being a Christian. And I don't agree. Like, I don't do the like woo woo stuff and all that, but I do enjoy a good crystal. I do enjoy, having some clearing energy and all of that. I mean, let's be real. God fucking made the earth, so he made those crystals too. So do whatever you want with that. But I enjoy just trying to find the things that work for me. And like I said, people cannot judge you, or they can, but who cares? Don't let it bother you. Do what makes you feel good. And so there was another thing, and I'm going to leave you guys with this because I thought it was so good. And you can apply it to whatever you believe in. Okay. Like, I believe in God. If you don't, that's okay. I have friends who believe in a higher power. And that's great. I fully 100% believe that everybody should believe in something, whatever that looks like for you. Cause like I said, you need to have a moral compass, values, things like that. So like, if you don't have anything to believe in, then I feel like anything goes. Then you just kind of just become a shitty person, in my opinion. That's what I've experienced with people. Okay, so that I'm just going strictly off of my experiences. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. And it's a guy that I follow on TikTok that came up, and I just thought it was so good. And it said, why God leaves the residue of your pain. Because I think one thing that and I'm sure we all do it, where I question like all the turmoil that I have experienced, all the heartache that I've experienced, all the things that have happened to me, like, is that my karma? Like, is this my karma? And then I have to think about like, well, what did I do to deserve this? And after I read this, I was like, no, because I'm not a bad person. I'm not a terrible person. I don't treat people like shit, but we're all on a journey and we're all here for a reason. And so it says, have you ever wondered why, even after healing, you can still feel the weight of your past? Why certain scars remain even when you've moved forward? God doesn't always erase the memory of your pain because your story isn't just for you. He allows the residue to stay, not to break you again, but to help someone else find healing through your testimony. Your pain has a purpose. It reminds you how far you've come. You are living proof of resilience. It gives you compassion. You can meet others in their pain because you've been there. It helps break chains. Your healing shows others that freedom is possible. It glorifies God. What once hurt you is now being used to help others rise. Your past doesn't define you, but God can use it to change lives. Keep sharing, keep healing, keep letting your story be the light someone else needs. And I think that's one of the biggest things of why I really wanted to do this podcast too, is I feel like it's so important for all of us to share because we're not alone. Everybody has something. Everybody's going through stuff, and it's nice to not feel alone. And so leaving you guys with that, your past is your testimony. You've gone through it. You've pushed through it. Use it as motivation to continue. Use it as, to help others. And, my story might not be as dramatic or traumatic as somebody else's, but it doesn't mean that somebody doesn't learn something from something that I've gone through, and vice versa. I love to know people's stories. I love to hear all the things because I can learn also from that. And so I just encourage all of you in this crazy world that we live in to just encourage each other, encourage your friends, encourage your family. Don't be judgy because you don't know what somebody's going through, and you cannot judge somebody when you haven't even walked in their shoes. So let's be better. Let's do better. Let's all be here and support each other because that's how it's supposed to be. And so with that, I appreciate all of you once again for listening. There is definitely more to come. I feel like me being an open book allows me to be successful in this platform and successful in order to share all of my things with you guys. And there's no shame in anything. We all live different lives. We all go through different things, and that's okay. And it's important for us to be there for each other. So, besties, that's the tea. And pinkies up. See you soon. Bye.
Well, that's the tea, besties. Pinkies up!